The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on March 8th, 2022.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumbot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and we have a great show for you today. We have Mayor Victorino here to talk about the new COVID rules, when the mandates will end, leveraging federal funds for shovel-ready projects, and what it looks like for Maui County moving forward. We're going to speak with the chair of the construction industry of Maui, learn about the inflation of material costs, labor shortages, and what's happening on affordable rentals and entitled project shortages. And we'll speak with a nonprofit executive director that offers services from business incubation and development of affordable housing projects and special needs apartments. But first this morning, we are so pleased to have Mayor Mike Victorino with us. Everybody knows our great mayor who has been doing wonderful things and having to make really tough decisions during this time. And Mayor, we're always happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making the time for us this morning.
No, mahalo, and thank you for doing this. You know, you've got a great list of guests this morning. I kind of wish I was following all of them because then I could really top what they are saying. And what's his name? Josh. I mean, these are great people in our community. But, you know, let's talk about what you asked about, the COVID restrictions that Maui County has dropped almost all of their COVID restrictions, okay?
Yes.
But unfortunately, safe travels will last till midnight, March 26th at 12:01 a.m. Then safe travels will no longer be in place. So that means people can travel freely, do not have to have a COVID negative test and or have their vaccination series up to date. I still hope people do it. I still hope that people remember Hawaii and Maui is our home, not just a destination. And we want them to treat it with respect like I would treat if I treated them if I went to their home, wherever they come from, yeah?
Right.
So with safe travels being ended as of the 26th of March, we're now moving to a new era where many of the other restrictions and some the governor has indicated he may keep for a while, including the mask wearing, the mandatory mask wearing indoors. I want to repeat indoors because that's the only requirement. Outdoors, when you're in large crowds or people you're unfamiliar with, mask wearing is recommended but not mandated. So it's a choice. Outdoors, indoors is still mandated until further notice. But, Pam, a lot of things are happening good in our society and the reopening of Hawaii and Maui County, but there's still some dark clouds on the horizon. And first of all, the Russian-Ukrainian war has really dampened our economic revitalization and growth. It's made oil soar. I mean, I think yesterday went up to 130 and plateaued at 106. I don't know what it is this morning. And that's a 7-year high. And that's making it extremely difficult. I went to a certain gas station, and it was $5.01 for premium.
Yeah.
$5.01 for premium. And that's not a small little mom-and-pop service station. I'm talking one of the big boys in town. And so, with that being said, I know it's becoming a real challenge for families again who are just getting on their feet, just getting things back to some normalcy. Bam, this hits us. So how do we combat this? Well, first of all, the federal government has released 60 million gallons of crude to kind of level off the price spikes that you're seeing right now. However, you can do some of those little things yourself. Making sure your tires are properly inflated. Don't carry too much heavy weight. Use your air conditioning judiciously, not at all times. And other mitigating methods of saving gas. Taking trips or maybe making 2 or 3 trips together on one trip instead of going to the store and then going to the doctor later that day and then going. If you can kind of combine them, that also helps.
Those are great recommendations.
Simple recommendations, but I think this is important for all of us to continue to work towards that. But on the other side of the front, we still have many challenges in our revitalizing and redirecting our economy. As you've been a part of some of my task force and some of the people that have been very vital in changing our economy, making our economy more really resilient and sustainable, agriculture, wellness, technology, and many others are a big part of it. We saw what Halimako is putting together, and that may be the prototype to others here in Maui County. We have always been known for being a healthy state, the best in the nation. However, we can make Maui County the capital of health throughout the state and maybe even the nation. I welcome people who want to get healthy, who want to stay healthy coming to Maui. That's a great thing. Maui County offers you some of the best weather, the best air, the best water, and most importantly, the best aloha spirit you can find anywhere in our state. And the aloha spirit is really some of the best medicine you can get anywhere. So these are the areas that we are moving towards really, really quickly. But to make this come to pass, we need to utilize the $2.6 billion in the federal infrastructure money bill, the money that will be coming to the state of Hawaii. I can't tell you exactly what we're going to get, but we have some shovel-ready programs ready to go. For example, we've been working over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, on our central wastewater treatment plant, which will be built along the Kuilani Highway up by about 2 miles from the junction of Honapi'ilani Highway coming in to Kahului. This is a site that was decided with the cooperation of the landowner and the Board of Health. It was deemed the best site to build a treatment plant in the Plains area, in the Central Plains area.
Yes.
So I'm excited that this will help, with three things: diverting and the dependency of the Kahului treatment plant, taking much of this waste and sending it out there to be treated, and then being utilized with all the farming that abuts that. All the farmers that, water is an essential part of their needs to grow wonderful crops for us to eat here in Maui County. And so this will kill two birds with one stone, I call it. Provide water for our farmers and not have to inject it into the ground anymore. So, I'm really excited about this project. The other is the Waiale extension, so we can lessen the traffic on Honapi'ilani Highway, starting about where the golf course exit is, where the, I forget the name of the Kahili. I forgot the name. Kahili Golf Course. Excuse me, Pamela.
That's all right. I do that all the time these days.
These moments come more and more. But, so that way, that extension will alleviate and reduce the traffic going through Waikupu town and have a straight shot to Waiko Road and come in on Waiale to Maoilani and come right into Wailuku town. So there, we're also looking at something like 1,400, a wide array of units to be built by the Atherton and the Waikupu Ventures in public partnership with the County of Maui. We will provide monies for the roadways to be built and the bridge, and they will provide us another 215 or so affordable rentals or units to purchase, obtainable units to purchase. We will also have a chance to build about 400 units ourselves on the other side of Waiale extension, abutting where the middle school, where we're planning to put in over the next 5 to 7 years. And to add to that, talking about schools, we're close to working out a deal where 4 acres will be given to Pu'ukukui Elementary for expansion and some play area for the children. And that is on the Waihe side of the school, that area that's all brushland.
Yeah.
That 4 acres will be able to give the school an opportunity to expand because they're nearly at the seams already with student body. And so this will give them an opportunity to build out further buildings and playground areas for their students. So we're excited about that opportunity. We're still on the final negotiation stages of that, but I want to thank Representative Hashimoto and others who have helped me along with that I want to thank the DOE for, really being a good partner in this area. Pam, there is so much good news that if I started, I'll take your whole show and then some to talk about all the great news.
Well, we're going to keep having you back because we want to hear great news, especially in times like these when we're seeing so much tragedy in the world, and we're so blessed to live in Maui. But it's always good to hear good news because we've been watching so much tragic news on the news.
Let me, if I may,
Yes.
complete a couple more things, and I'll let you go because I know you have other guests, and I don't want to take up their time. Again, this infrastructure money will help us upgrade our water systems, fix our highways, bridges, and move a portion of the Honopi'ilani Highway away from the sea. You go out to Lahaina along Olowalo and Okumihami. The ocean is overtaking our roadway there, overtaking Honopi'ilani Highway. And I want to make sure that that's done and done quickly. We can't wait 10 or 12 years or 15 years. We've got to get it done in the next year to two, or else our road will actually collapse into the sea and we'll have no means of transportation between West Maui and Central Maui. Also, we have 1,400 new units that have been completed. 364 of affordable rentals and 574 obtainable price homes for purchase have been, in other words, keys in the door, and these are part of our community. The challenge we face, that sounds good, but not good enough. So we're looking at 2,500 workforce housing units in the pipeline with the administration's commitment to work with the county to get that done over the next 3 to 5 years. And, once the federal funding starts flowing in, we'll create new construction jobs, which, falls into your next guest. And we welcome them to help us build what I call a resilient, sustainable Maui County. These are the people that make it all happen for us, Pam. And I'm so grateful for having them. And like Susie and the rest, that bring in all these experimental or these what we call areas of challenge that we can fill, because these experimental homes that we've done down here in Happy Valley and others have proven to be very successful. So I'll close with this, Pam. Thank you so very much.
Mayor, we have time. We're not rushed. We still have time.
I thought we had 20 minutes, and I'm looking at 19 after 7, so I'm forget them in this area. But if you have any specific questions, then I'll stop right here and listen to the questions. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I was like, I hope he doesn't think I'm rushing him. No, we've got time. Well, so I know, and you, we had a little bit of a conversation just before we went on the show today, and you were talking about, because this concept of shovel ready, we really haven't heard since like back in 2008 during the Great Recession. So can you share a little bit about, we were talking about shovel ready, and people don't understand what that means. And sometimes it's hard for us to understand where the federal government's going and what they mean. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's one of the big challenges we faced even back when we had shovel ready program back in 2008-9. During the Great Recession that we had at that period of time. Shovel-ready programs should be programs that already have gone through design and planning and design, ready to go, and now all you need is to award contracts, because nobody's going to accept something without any money behind of it, and that's what the federal funds will be, that financial backing to get that jobs done, like the Waiale extension, like the Central Waste Treatment Plant. These are two big ones. And there's another, and the Honopi'ilani Highway movement, MALCA, so that we can protect the transportation system between Central and West Maui. So these are ready. They're designed, they're planned, they're designed. Now and now we're also working with the EISs and any other environmental issues so that will be off the table already, will be done and approved. So we hope the money will be coming over the next 6 months to a year. Once we get the money, then it's just turning around and awarding contracts and getting our wonderful construction industry out there doing what they do best, building a sustainable community.
Absolutely. And I know, you mentioned earlier the health and wellness, and we're so excited to see that because I remember being back at MEDB 20 years ago. We always saw Hawaii as a great place, and Maui specifically as a great place for a health and wellness industry. And of course, over the years, we've had doctor shortages, nursing shortages. So we saw, though, many opportunities to invest in that area that not only would benefit our residents, but also be a leverage for some of our visitors and teach them new things and new practices and maybe do some local procedures here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that economic development strategy?
Well, we've been working with Halemakua, the University of Hawaii Maui College. Our workforce development is like the coordinator, the facilitator of all this, and other private sector groups to enhance the training and development of the necessary workforce for this specific area. Wellness is a specialty, not just getting well, but staying well. And so we want to train CNAs in our Maui High School or other high schools so that they have a career path. When they finish high school, they go to college and get to be an LPN and then an RN, and work their way through the system where they'll be getting paid to get educated. Kind of like helping them not have so much debt at the end of the journey, and actually be ready to be a part of our workforce there, and keep them here, making sure they can stay here and raise their families here. That's why we have some programs right now that we're experimenting with for workforce housing for nurses, technicians, doctors, other important essential workers up here at Maui Lani. We're working on some programs right now that we'll be announcing very shortly. And this is to enhance the ability for them to come here, live here. They have somewhere to buy or somewhere to rent so that they can stay here. One of the biggest challenges, and you're well aware of it, rentals have gone skyrocketing, and it's sky high right now, and we need to build so we have more to make it more competitive. We have a number of projects on the books now that either be ready by the end of this year or be starting by the middle of this year. So we have more apartments, more units. We've been helping Linda Schatz and her 364 units right here in the corner of Kuilani and Honapielani Highway, which is like across Longs and Fulan, across the street from them. We had, as you saw yesterday in the paper, we talked about what Catholic Charities has done with Kahuluilani, and now we're going to build another one, Piilani, that will be for 178 families, 1- and 2-bedroom family units. And so there's so much that we're working on to get not only in the pipeline, but get shovel ready, get into construction. Now, none of this is not in. The infrastructure will help these projects for our workforce. So, Pam, there is just an immense amount of action that's happening. And because we've finally gotten what we call COVID basically managed, and now we're going to live with it and move on. I talked with Dr. Peng the other day, and, he's excited that, there may be other surges on the horizon, but he thinks we've learned to adapt to them and manage them better. Okay, because a year ago, we didn't know what COVID-19 was about, right, Pam?
Right.
We talked about it 3 times. We were going all over the place, but we learned. And now the next 3 to 4 years really is an opportunity for Maui to build a more diversified, stable, reliable economy. And I want to thank the council. I know Chair Alice Lee has working groups, just like we have task force, that are trying to put things together. And then we're going to blend all of what we've come up with and come up with really what I call our plan for Maui County. We're in a good place, and I'm excited to look at the future. And I believe, more importantly, our people, the residents of Maui County, have learned to be more resilient. One of the factors that really threw me off, yesterday I was reading a report that $3.7 trillion have been saved by Americans over the last 2 years.
Wow, that is shocking.
Yeah, because what has happened? Many people didn't take vacations. Many people didn't go anywhere. Many people stayed home, and they cut back what their nightlife or their entertainment. I mean, maybe the hula and all of these things were, a lot more prevalent in people's homes. But other than that, many people didn't spend a lot of money. I know the local credit unions told me in 2021 it was a banner year of savings. They didn't loan much money out until towards the end of the year when people started to get active again. So there's a lot of positives in our country and in our county, and let's utilize it. But the clouds on the horizon still say, let us be careful. The supply chain is still not fixed. We are having inflation. There's no question about inflation. We're in inflationary times. With this war, gas and other products are going to go up. There's no question about that. Transportation goes up. We all pay the price. But if we're frugal, if we think that, okay, today we don't really need this, let's wait till when things are better to buy whatever it might be, I think things will work out just like in the past. We've seen the challenges, we've met the challenges, and we've come out Maui Nui strong.
Well, and I love that you folks coined that phrase during this time, and it's something that will live with us for a very long time. And you're right, Mayor. We are always resilient and we'll be Maui Nui strong. Thank you so much. What a great note to end on. We always love having you on the show. We're going to, with so many projects, we're going to keep asking you to come on maybe even on a more regular basis because there's so much to talk about.
And Pam, I want to make a public announcement, if I may.
Yes.
I invite you in the construction industry to meet more regularly. We have met, but during these COVID times, they were very difficult in meetings, and all the different sectors. It's been a lot more difficult to meet because of the restrictions we had on and the challenges we faced. I really believe now's the time to reopen the door. The door is never closed, but to open up wide and let's get together. I open it to all of you in your construction, your contractors, our unions, everyone. I'm open to meet with everybody now because I feel safer. I think you feel safer. Let's move on. And the 2 years we've lost. But let's learn from those 2 years and let's move exponentially for the next 3 to 4 years and get things done.
Amen. You've got it. We will absolutely take advantage of that great opportunity that you've shared with us, and mahalo for opening that door. And again, like you said, it was never closed, but we've opened it wider, and it's time. And people are dying to get back to in-person meetings and moving forward. So thank you so much, Mayor, for all that you're doing for our county and the people of our beautiful islands in Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. We really appreciate you, and thank you again for being on the show today.
Mahalo for allowing me this time. I've been honored to be the mayor of this county through the most hectic and pandemic and economic downturn you could think of. But I've been honored to work with all of you to do the best we can to make our place a better, resilient county. And I think we're there and moving forward. God bless you all, Pam. You take care of you and your family. To all out there, be safe, be healthy. Aloha. Ahui ho.
Aloha, Mayor. Thank you so much. You too. All right, we're going to be right back after a brief message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
And we're back. If you're just tuning in, this is the Business Matters radio show brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Our next guest is Josh Berlien, owner of Berlien Consulting LLC, and his company specializes in strategic development of contractors and construction management services. He is also the chairman of the Construction Industry of Maui, which is a trade council under the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Josh. Aloha.
Good morning, Pam. Aloha to you, too. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a while, and we're so glad to have you back on.
Hey, me too. These are always fun.
Thank you. Well, we've got important topics to talk about, and one of them is what's going on with the inflation and how it's affecting our material costs.
Boy, oh boy. We're just a very small cog in the wheel out here in Maui when the rubber hits the road. Obviously, there are things happening on the global level and the national level. The issues and the concerns when it trickles down to us, and we've been talking about this for a better part of 2 years now.
Yes.
Was the ripple effect that we knew that was coming from the supply chain interruptions that started back in early 2020. And those are still rearing their ugly head. And with what's happening, obviously, in Eastern Europe, with energy prices that are going to shoot through the roof even further, we don't see an end to this hyperinflation in sight. Now, why is this a huge issue for us? Obviously, someone's going to have to pay for it going forward, but we're still getting through a period of time where there's contracts in place.
Right.
And now it's a question of who owns the escalation.
Right.
Do you force a contractor to eat it? Or do you sit back down at the table and renegotiate a contract or T&M rates halfway through the game? It's a very uncomfortable position to be in right now, I can tell you that.
Yes. For those who are not familiar with T&M, explain that for our audience.
That's just time and materials.
Yeah.
So if you're doing something that's, say, outside of the contract, or you're, the scope's not clearly defined and there's a lot of unknowns, you may switch to just paying straight time of the guys doing the work. And typically on the front end of a contract, you put labor rates in place. And, this kind of ties into the labor shortage. Is people are screaming for pay increases right now.
Right.
And, there's a very good reason for it. It's tough to live on Maui, and the exodus is happening every day and just kind of getting worse.
Right.
So you have a workforce that's needing to get paid more, but you have contractors that are locked into a contract, and some of these projects, are 1, 2, 3 years long.
Right.
And they're locked into a labor rate. So really that is going to erode the profits of the contractor unless the project owner is willing to come back to the table and take on those costs themselves.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that many people don't really understand. Of course, on big projects, right, there's a lot of lead time, a lot of bidding that goes in well in advance, and then you get to contracting, and sometimes there can be delays in terms of permitting and other things moving forward. And so here we get hit with this huge supply chain issue, in addition to rising material costs with all the fires and lumber going up and other materials going up. I hear PVC piping and other things are really going through the roof. And you've got a contract that you're locked into for fixed costs at that point, or what was anticipated. I know there's always some sort of margin that people try and estimate, but you couldn't really estimate this. I mean, this is a perfect storm.
There's no reasonable way that a lot of folks could have ever seen this coming to this magnitude. You try your best to look in the crystal ball, but when you're seeing, like we saw lumber last year, and then it was iron ore and copper. Now anything that has metal in it or a computer chip, it's just outrageous and very hard to get your hands on things right now.
Yeah, it's a very difficult time. It's a difficult time for construction industry, and other industries are having similar issues. But the difference is they're not seeing those contract issues the way you folks are. So how is it going in terms of, are we seeing people start to come back to the table and be willing to negotiate on this?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And every project is different. Maybe some project owners can afford to do this. Others, you have, say, a lot of association work.
Yeah.
And, their budgets are built on reserve studies that are done years in advance. Like a construction estimator, the folks that do these reserve studies, no way they could foresee this coming. So if someone had $1 million socked away for a roofing project, now the costs come in and it's 1.8.
Right.
They're in a position where it's either they got to let a deficient roof sit, or they're going to have to do a special assessment.
Right.
Again, it's just a matter of who pays.
Yeah.
The other side of this, like you said, the perfect storm would then be the folks actually doing the work. And
Yes.
I was on a job site yesterday. We're running about 25 guys out there. And within 10 minutes of each other, I'm making my rounds, stop, talk story to some of the guys a little bit. Two guys within 10 minutes of each other are having to move out of Hawaii into the mainland.
Yeah,
And
housing
we've heard
issue.
this for years now. I mean, the housing shortage goes back a long way,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just getting worse and worse. And it's hypercritical right now, where these are two guys. They've probably been in the trades for 20, 25 years plus. They're skilled guys.
Right, which
And
means they can work anywhere. Right, they can go anywhere and make,
they can't
yeah.
they can't make ends meet anymore to afford a rental.
Yeah.
There's so much competition out there.
Yeah.
No inventory, and my growing concern is how are we going to get stuff done that needs to be done
Right.
if the skilled guys that need to be here to do the work can't afford to live here?
Right,
And we're seeing that concern rise dramatically right now.
yeah, and they're finding cheaper housing. They've got we have amazing construction industry workers here, and they've got the skills, so they can deploy those skills anywhere. And there's worker shortages on the mainland, so people are being attracted, and and housing is cheaper and maybe more abundant in a lot of the areas that they're looking at. And this is a really tough thing. So, I know this is also a very important issue to CIM and your members, and we're hearing, through all of the chambers of commerce, housing, because again, so many of our industries are deeply affected by not having enough housing and the cost of housing, and as you said, literally trying to compete for housing, which is getting to be just very tremendous. So tell us a little bit about, again, you're starting to share how it's affecting your industry. Where do you see some solutions in this area? Aside from just building more. I mean, we definitely, Mayor was just talking about building more and a housing project, a rental project in Lahaina, Linda Schatz's project, and the housing coming up at Waiale through that partnership. But what are some of the short-term solutions for your industry, and how do we try and retain some of these workers?
Boy, we're really behind the eight ball on this. There are some projects in the works or in the pipeline, but overall, the pipeline, there's not enough supply going to be created in that pipeline to meet the demand that's been backlogged for so many years. What I could see is, and I'm hearing this from quite a few developers, is the 201H projects. A lot of those are getting stalled out or killed when presented. They're just getting piled with concessions. And, those are the projects that are meant to be fast-tracked. They get exemptions from certain ordinances and certain reviews because they supply that housing at 50% affordable. My gut feeling always is that, I hate to say it, but our industry and developers, they've been demonized for so long. Everyone just sees it as something negative and something bad instead of correlating it into something necessary if we're going to fulfill the housing issue.
Right.
And, instead of constantly doing battle between county council, the public side, and the private side, more partnership is definitely needed. And understanding and actually listening to the people that do this for a living and understand what it takes to pencil it out. Loading a project with concessions of what the developer must provide for the county, in my opinion, is wrong, especially if you're looking to do something affordable, something desirable that families want to be in, where you have a yard, a place for your kids to play. And that's where I believe that the county can really step up, and instead of loading a project with concessions, put skin in the game.
Right.
And we've been saying this for quite some time. Don't put building a park back on the developer. How about the county puts the infrastructure even all the way up 5 feet to the building path? Anything, put the land up, anything to where an affordable project isn't necessarily, a very small lot with a lot of apartments crammed in it. but something more desirable for families to have space to raise their children.
Absolutely. And, you point out, and again, there is this perception we just have to overcome, because we can't just keep demonizing people in the industry and not coming together on solutions. And there's a lot of people who talk about solutions, but some of these so-called experts haven't built a home. Some of the people that are saying they're an expert don't own a home, and they're passionate about, and we get the passion about wanting to be in a home. But you also, beyond, looking at some of the research, you have to understand the financing behind what it takes to move these homes forward and what the realities are between market and affordable rates, and the challenges and the nuances of when we've got, as you point out, 201H, which is meant to fast-track housing. Every time we start seeing projects get additional conditions heaped on, and this has happened for decades, and that's why so many of the projects people talk about, well, we got promised these many units, and they didn't get built. Well, they didn't get built because so many conditions were heaped on that it didn't pencil out in many cases. So now we're glad to see that, Waiale's moving forward, because now we've got a new partnership. And, we're dealing with a roadway situation that was problematic in the past. And now out of that, there's a treatment plant that could benefit the county as well as the project. And there's other things that are happening. But it's that kind of partnership and coming together that we really have been advocating for a long time. And we really hope that we can bridge that gap and make that happen. So, I know that you've felt, within the industry, and we're seeing this across other industries as well, right? We've got labor shortages that are happening. We've got people moving because they can't find affordable housing and rentals. And it's sort of a very different employee market and different behaviors that we're seeing with some of our employees. And, tell us a little bit more about what's happening in your industry there.
It's very hard to find both the skilled workers as well as the professional side for management and administrative workers. And those are definitely learned, taught, and earned skill sets. The other is non-skilled labor. And that's another problem that's just been heightened with you're seeing a server at a restaurant or a bartender. These businesses are having to really up the ante to get people just to come to work.
Right.
Now, a lot of these younger men and women see a more glamorous opportunity. You make more, possibly, than being in the trenches and getting your hands dirty with some backbreaking work where you're earning your skill set to become a skilled worker. So you're seeing a lot of people kind of take a little short-sighted view of maybe a more glamorous, a fun job. I can't fault them. We've all been in our 20s. So I get it. But there's just a competition right now to get people that will come to work and work hard. The other that I briefed on is the skilled people, the managers, the ones that came from the education side. And, as far as what the CIM does, we see that as the other half to this housing shortage for our local people. And it's part of the CIM's mission to really foster people to learn a skilled trade, to go get your education. We're trying to fill our pond of local people to have the skill sets to compete with people that got their training elsewhere. So that those jobs, those well-paying jobs, when outside competition does come in, our people can compete equally, if not better. And, we're shelling out a lot of money for young men and women to fill their tool bags. We're shelling out a lot of money to pay for kids' education. Our scholarship fund is now at the point where we hand out checks that are $20,000. And, the top programs, UH Manoa, you can go and learn how to be an architect or an engineer or a construction manager there. The other good programs are on the mainland. And the cost of education is getting kind of ridiculous as well, too. So we're trying to combat this on the other front of teaching our people, Maui kids, how to have a well-paying job so that those houses that are available, they can afford, and it's not the off-island money that outbids them.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have been doing a phenomenal job, and I so applaud the work that CIM has been doing, both in encouraging young people to get into the trades. You've been helping them look at getting into the trades at all levels, as well as those who want to go on to college, working with them and doing this great scholarship program. And as you said, it started like all things start, but it ramped up very quickly. All things start out small, and now you folks are really giving very significant amounts of money. So thank you, Josh, for all the great work you're doing, and thank you for being on the show today. We always appreciate having you on, and have loved learning more about where the industry's at and working with you on how we can push through and get what's really needed most, both for the industry as well as, of course, our entire community, is getting these housing units and rentals built.
Of course. It's my pleasure. And Pam, thank you very much for having me.
It's been our pleasure as well. You have a great day.
You too. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha. All right, if you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Our next guest is Susie Thiemann, the Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific. Susie previously co-founded and served as the publisher of the Downtown Planet. It was a free weekly newspaper serving downtown Honolulu, which she did for 25 years. And then CEO of MEO's Business Development Corporation for 8 years. Her recent volunteer activities, including serving as vice chair of the board of directors of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Native Hawaiian Revolving Loan Fund program for 6 years on the board. She's also the 12th year as the host of the Maui Nonprofit Notes. I hope many of you listen in. It's an hour-long weekly radio show of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, and is the vice chair and founding member of the Pacific Arts Corporation. Susie, aloha and good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Pam. How's it going?
Oh, gosh, it's a gorgeous Maui day. It's been going well.
Oh, it is. And I've been listening to you, and you touched on so many things that just hit home for me because of all the things we've been doing.
Yes, I mean you have such a very diverse background from publishing to financing and a nonprofit show, which we're going to talk about a little bit, to running Lokahi Pacific, and then to doing housing projects under that umbrella. What an amazing journey you've had. Tell us about how long you've been the executive director, and a little bit about the nonprofit services that you offer through Lokahi.
Okay. Well, I came on board at the request of the board of directors back in 2011. That's after the recession that we all,
yes.
You talked about earlier, 2008, 2009, when things in the real estate area just went bottoms up. Lokahi had several projects going. It had a huge loan fund to new businesses, and between the two, they lost a tremendous amount of money. Mm-hmm. By 2011, the board was sitting there saying, what have we got here? We need to figure out who we are, what we want to do. So they hired me on a 6-month basis to come in and figure out if there was a future and what it would be.
Wow.
That was 11 years ago.
I was going to say, one of those rare opportunities where you help them with planning and you end up working in the job. That's awesome.
Well, you talk about my background. I mean, it was like the perfect fit for me to come in and just analyze what was going on and say, okay, this is not going to come back. You need to forget about this, move on, work with this and this and this. And so Lokahi, over the last 40 years, well, actually, last year was our 50th anniversary.
Awesome.
And we got caught, of course, in the COVID thing and couldn't do a big celebration. But we did put in a new website, which was a great thing. And so now everything's up to date on that. But over the last 40 years, Lokahi Pacific developed and built 7, excuse me, too early for me, Pam.
Sorry, I know your show's on a little later.
Yeah. And for good reason, yeah. We built housing for people with
yes.
Issues. We had chronically mental ill, the physically disabled, people with AIDS, women helping women, folks that needed housing. And in those 7 units, we house well over 100 people. And we've been successfully doing that throughout the whole time. I'm proud to say that they've been really great tenants through the COVID. These last 2 years, a lot of things could have happened to really cause trouble, but no, they hunkered down, stayed put, and just I got to thank them for being such great tenants during that period. We also have done 4 affordable subdivisions, and I know that's something that's near and dear to talking with you.
Yes.
The first one was over Mauna Loa in Molokai, and then we did Kahua in Lahaina and Kenaleo in Kihei, and most recently was Mokuhau there in Wailuku. My goal when I accepted the job full-time was to build every 4 years. And everybody said, oh, you can't do that. You got to plan 6, you got to plan 8. Well, I didn't have 6 or 8 years to work with when I jumped in. Kenaleo was kind of starting out and running into problems, and we had to jump in, and we had some financing that had some real timeline issues on it, and we got it done just right on time, proving that we still had what it took. Our construction team, we had Hans Ricky, the late Hans Ricky.
What a gem.
What a loss to us, and I know to the community, especially to his family.
Yes.
He was a gem. I mean,
he was.
I can't imagine working with anybody better. And we had Tito Hokuano, Steve Wormser from Crown Construction. It was the perfect dream team of a construction project. And I worked with them on Kenaleo and on Mokuhau. And I've got to tell you, Mokuhau, we bought the property. 4 years later, we were handing the keys to the new owners. And it was a challenge. And I know one of the things that you talked about just a little while ago was the things that get thrown at developers and what people don't understand we go through to try to start and finish homes.
Right.
Just as we were getting ready to hook up water, the county came up, the county water department said, wait a minute, you got to upgrade the 9-inch water line on the street. And we go, what?
Right.
They had upgraded to within 4 houses of our property. But for us to hook up, we had to continue that past those 4 houses, past our unit to the main road ahead. The price was unbelievable. It was going to change the total cost and the total price we would have to charge on those houses. And I said, you know what? I'm not going over $400,000. No way. We need help.
Right.
So we went to see Ricky Hokama, who was then the budget chair, and we sat down and we talked about what are the possibilities of having some help. And he got together with I can't remember exactly who it was now, it was director of the water department. But they sat down and they figured out a way for a grant to be issued from the water department to us.
There you go.
For the value of the cost that we had gotten from our contractor to do the water line, and they did a grant that paid for the entire thing. They said they were going to have to do it anyway. If they would do it, it would cost probably twice as much and take twice as long. Since we already had a proposal, they matched it, and we went right straight through and got her done.
And that's why we need these nonprofit business and government partnerships, because there's ways when we all come to the table to find a way to mitigate some of the needs or the new requirements that are being imposed, and still and still find ways to not keep elevating the cost of our affordable housing and rentals. Exactly.
You cannot put such high prices on these homes. I don't care what you say. Even if interest rates were to stay at 2%, which we know they're not, they're already on the rise.
Yep.
By the time some of these homes get built, between the interest rates and the prices of the houses, the people we want to serve are going to be priced right out of them.
Yeah, and Josh was just talking about now, right? We're still seeing we've got shortage issues, we've got supply chain issues, we've got the cost of materials still on the rise. Lumber went up; it's coming down a little bit, but there's other things that are still on the rise. And we've always said the longer we wait, we take an affordable housing or rental unit out of that realm, because the longer we wait, the costs keep going up.
Exactly.
And
It's a real tightrope, and a lot of the people that are working on this issue don't understand that tightrope.
Yeah. And that's, we keep trying to explain it to the community, because there's so many people who feel that, these developers are only out for, making a ton of money, and they don't understand carrying capacity on the land. And even before anything's built, you're still paying your lender for buying the property. And the longer it takes, the more you're paying the lender. Sometimes people have to renegotiate their loans because they can't get things done in time. And then along the way, there's all these nuances that can come up where costs are added.
Exactly. It's a real it's a super challenge, and it's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
But the bottom line is, when you're handing that keys to the house to that couple, and we had a perfect example of a success story. One guy turned to his young daughter, who was like 8 years old, and he said, "Here, honey, these are for you."
Oh, I love that.
You just melt when you see that. And I mean, the look on her face.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
Yeah. And that's what we want. That's what we all want. We all want housing, and we're so frustrated because we keep hearing our community cry out for housing. And those of us, I'm very blessed to have a home, and in large part it was because my parents blessed me with a home and sold me a home at a price I could afford versus what the value was. But this is a huge challenge for our community, and for people like me and others who want our children to come back home. Where are they going to be able to afford? And people who are here and struggling. Our cost of living is high in Hawaii, and housing prices are rising, and the market's going crazy. So, that's where we want to go. And Susie, you're one of those experts that I talk about. We need to engage and work with the experts who've done the skin in the game and knows what it takes.
It's a real challenge, and I just have to give a shout out to those who are able to buy their homes. They put forth a lot of effort. When we were building this last project, I know some of the folks I spent 3 years working.
Oh, I'm sorry, Susie. We had to cut you off because it got to the end of the show. Gary's giving me the signal. That's all the time we had for Business Matters today. I'm Pamela Tumpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing everybody blessings and best wishes. And thank you, Susie, for being on the show and talking about our housing issues. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Aloha.